ละค่ะทุกท่านคะในหัวข้อถัดไปค่ะเรายังคงอยู่ทางด้านของโซลูชันที่จะช่วยทำให้โลกของเราสามารถที่จะพัฒนาและสร้างสมดุลมากยิ่งขึ้นกว่าเดิม How to make a better our world together ค่ะในหัวข้อถัดไปนะคะจะเป็นการพูดคุยในหัวข้อ Unlocking Impact Sufficiency Accelerating SDGs ค่ะในวันนี้นะคะเราได้รับเกียรติจากผู้การผู้ทรงคุณวุฒิที่จะขึ้นมาเจาะลึกรวมทั้งมาบรรยายในหัวข้อสำคัญของในหัวข้อนี้เอาเป็นว่าในช่วงนี้ค่ะขออนุญาตที่จะส่งต่อให้กับผู้ดำเนินรายการงานในครั้งนี้นะคะ Right now distinguished guests for up next I would like to move all of you to let's talk about the topic of unlocking impact Sufficiency Accelerating SDGs. Right now that we would like to send this part to our moderator to be here on this. So please give a round of applause for welcome Mr. DJ, visiting professor and senior advisor sustainability and transformation leadership at Sassin School of Management. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ Good morning. We all know that the world needs to transition to more sustainable models of growth that work with nature, not against, and that don't leave anyone behind. Despite enormous commitments from governments and businesses around the world is running behind on the SDGs, seriously behind. At the moment, only 14% of the SDGs are on track. The other SDGs are running behind, are stalled, or some of them are even going in reverse. So clearly there is something lacking from the SDGs. Could Thailand's sufficiency economy philosophy be a solution? Could sufficiency accelerate the implementation of the SDGs? That is what we're going to be exploring over the coming hour. And to jump straight in, we have two great thinkers that are going to kick this off for us. Let me introduce them to you. Kun Sukic Udinju, formerly the Vice President of Sustainability at the Minor Group and today a sustainability columnist. And Kun Vasu Sriviba, Chief Impact Officer of Sassin School of Management here in Bangkok and also the head of accreditation of the school. So how do sufficiency economy philosophy and SDGs connect? What are the similarities and what are the differences? What is lacking from the SDGs and what is the opportunity for the sufficiency economy philosophy? Please shed some light on that. The floor is yours.
Thank you, GJ. First, let me start by telling the stories about sustainability and sufficiency economy philosophy. I think many of you have heard about this for a while, เศรษฐกิจพอเพียง but I just want to stir the conversation a bit on what exactly we mean by sufficiency economy philosophy and get you to rethink how it's related to business, to our everyday life, and also how we can really adapt the concept into business operations. I would like to start with this chart. This shows the trends of the world. Right? As you can see here, everything is going up, right? Can it be like this forever? Like if you look at the numbers here, like world population is going up, real GDP, urban populations, that's on the socio-economic side. And also on the earth system or environmental side, right? You can see here carbon dioxide, marine captures, ocean artifications, all these are rising, is going up. And this is not sustainable. If you look at this chart, this shows the change in temperatures. Like if you can see here, the temperature anomaly, which is the difference of the base temperatures compared to the temperature measures, you can see here like climate change is real, right? Or if you follow the news, right, you can see the unsustainable conditions either like from the socio-economic side, environmental. You can see here that all these are systemic issues. You cannot just pick that you want to start solving the first issues about fire and environmental disasters by ignoring the poverty issues. So all these are all connected. All these are systemic issues that we need to rethink on how we can solve the issues together. Clearly, we are living and acting an increasingly unsustainable way. I'm just curious, like how we got to here, Kun Sukit, like what happened? So how does it relate to sufficiency economy philosophy?
Okay, thank you very much, Kun Vasu. Now you see the world is in the unsustainable situation, and how it's related to sufficiency economy philosophy. Actually, Thai people always remember this three loop, two condition, that kind of thing. It begins with fundamental of your life, wisdom and virtue. And then in management school, you must teach the management principle. Three loop is management principle. And for practitioners like us, keep balancing. You see, sometimes we call ESG, environmental, social, and governance. But sufficiency economy philosophy different because we add the value of culture. For me, to make it easier than that, sufficiency economy philosophy talking about two things. One thing outside of us, the world is change, everything is change, and then prepare for change. Sufficiency economy philosophy is about how to we prepare for change. New generation, 21st century, have to be take responsible for that. And changing from within. To change the world, you cannot change outside. Begin with changing within yourself. Kun Vasu, what do you teach as Satsin about management for sustainability?
Thank you. Actually, I like what you just said about the change. In business, when we talk about strategies, right, we said it's about adapt to change. So you are saying that sustainability and sufficiency economy philosophy is about prepare for change. So I just want to share with you a bit on the underlying concept and how it's related to the business that we teach as Satsin. Here, I would like to summarize the sufficiency economy philosophy in a very simple terms. So this will be very practical for you. It's not really about the theory or the principle or the philosophy that is maybe a bit far from the applications, but I just want to bring it down to the application side. When we talk about sufficiency economy philosophy, it's about first know what you're doing, right? Avoid extremes, take middle part. Sufficiency economy philosophy, as you may be aware, it's based on the Buddhist principles of the moderations of the non-extremes, right? So take middle part, that's one of the things that we should consider. Be sensible and insightful in making decisions. Business is all about making decisions. When we need to develop a new strategy, when we want to go to a new market, when we need to launch a new products, when we are making any decisions, how can we be more sensible and more insightful in making those decisions? And last but not least, is about build protections against shocks. But how can we make it really connect to the business terms, right? I just want to share it here, like what his late Majesty, the late King Rama IX, what he taught is all already embedded in the business thinking. If you take a look at this carefully, when we talk about, for example, build protections against shocks, in business terms, you talk about risk management. This is very obvious to many CFO or business people, right? Take middle part, avoid non-extremes. Corporate governance, how can make a corporate company be more like a good citizenship. So all these is all related to sufficiency economy philosophy that would create and foster change for SDGs. So, Kun Sukit, I'm just curious, like when you talk to people in the education side, how can you communicate sufficiency economy philosophy?
Actually, Kun Vasu already told you about the thing you teach at the Sasin at the management school. For me, when I set up SemiOSEP to help students or younger generation learn about sufficiency in 11 countries in Southeast Asia, we begin from very easy thing for students. It's all about head, heart, and hand. You see, just only three things. If you can change your head, heart, hand, the world will be more sustainable. Heart, the balance between private good and public good. Public good is more important than your happiness in your private good. Head, learning, always learning. Fixed mindset is not good. Growth mindset is better. Outward mindset is the best thing that we have to get together to change the world. And hand, begin to do something, not only talk. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, and then after this you will see a lot of story about this kind of thing. Everything is all about balancing overconsumption and limited resources. Capitalism, maximize profit, and your moral capitalist, that kind of thing. GDP and GNH, everything related to sufficiency economy philosophy, bring back your happiness. And happiness is the goal. SDG goal is all about happiness for all people in the world. And then you can learn from 20 rules, 20 principles of His Majesty the King Ramadinai. We have a book on that. Actually, if you are English, you can scan and read my book about sufficiency economy philosophy related to 27 principles of King Ramadinai. Just scan and read. It's all about head, heart, and hand. But if you are Thai, the same thing you can scan and read principle หลักการทรงงานนะครับ It is all about sufficiency and sustainability. So it is all about the opening of our session, and you will learn more on our special panelists. คุณประสูครับ
Thank you.
Thank you.
So after you've heard about the concept, the thinking behind the sufficiency economic philosophy, many of you may still have questions. Like, there's still a gap, challenges between the theory, the principle, and the applications. And a lot of challenges can be overcome by rethinking and refocusing and rebalancing the mindset. So now let me hand over back to GJ to back on the stage and get you to hear about the real life applications and how corporates and social enterprise really implemented sufficiency economic philosophy in their operations. So back to you, GJ.
Thank you, Kun Vasu, Kun Sutich. Thank you for shedding some light on how SEP, the sufficiency economy philosophy, and the SDGs connect. So the SDGs, in a way, are high-level targets, high-level objectives for some of the really complicated societal challenges that we're facing. And these social and environmental challenges, we would call them systemic challenges. These are challenges that are really complex. They're really hard to solve because there are many actors involved. There are many causal relationships playing out, causing these challenges. And in systemic thinking, systems thinking, one of the most powerful levers to solve systemic problems is mindset, is the mindset behind the system trying to solve these challenges. And this is maybe where the sufficiency economy philosophy can come in. But then there are two things that we really need to think about. How can we make the sufficiency economy applicable? How can we take it, as Kun Sutich explained how can we take it from heart to head to hands. Is it possible to translate the sufficiency economy into a more concrete set of guidelines or tools for businesses to implement? And another question that we should think about is how can we make sure that the sufficiency economy philosophy spreads, is being used by as many business decision makers as possible. So to explore these two questions, we're very happy to have a great panel here. Let me introduce them to the stage. We have Dr. Vasimon Ranglek, Climate Impact and Circularity Senior Alliance Manager at Siam Cement Group. Kun Lakana Senbunko, founder of social enterprise Banana Land. Professor Chol Bunak, he is leading Thammasat SDG Move, where they do research and support for SDG implementations. And finally, Mr. Steve Young, Global Executive Director of the Co-Roundtable for Moral Capitalism. So sufficiency economy philosophy talks about balance, about reasonableness, about moderation, risk resilience. All of these things are obviously very, very positive virtues. One of the criticisms that you sometimes hear about sufficiency is that it can be interpreted in different ways, right? So what does it mean to be risk resilient, for instance, right? And if we're able to turn the sufficiency economy philosophy into more concrete actions, then it can become a very powerful tool. So that is something that I would love to explore with you. Dr. Vasimon, I'm going to start with you. How does Siam Cement Group work with the sufficiency philosophy and the SDGs? How do they line up for you?
Okay. Actually, for our company, we have a kind of a walk with the sustainable sufficiency economy protocol. Because of, for example, like when we have the crisis of the Tom Yam Gung, so we do use these protocol. Like we start with the three loop and the two conditions. So the three loop is mean the first one, we kind of evaluate ourselves by restructuring. Like when in the past we have about 10 core business unit, but then we kind of reduce to the one that we are good at and be expert. So those are the moderation part of the loop. So it means we restructure, reduce, and just work with the one that we good at. And then the second loop is we also use the reasonness in terms of our design of how can we adjust the resource and how can we kind of switching between the export and import, how can we get the cash flow back. So those are something that we need to make decision based on the reality. And then the third loop is about the immunity. So it means something like a prudence and the risk mitigation. So which means to do that is not just doing it without the preparation of the short-term and long-term risk mitigation plan. So and all those three loops has been done with the two conditions. So the first one, of course, we need to have the knowledge to leverage ourselves. That who are we competing with? How can we leverage with the global trend? So those are something that we need the knowledge. It's not just we go on and do it. And then definitely like the last one of the condition is with the virtue. It means when you make the business decision, you have to think about all stakeholders, including your employee. We never lay off our employee. but we kind of reskill them and try and utilize them in a better way. So those are the things that help us to solve the crisis of the Tom Yam Goong and become more like passing the survive and come to the growth phase.
Yeah, thank you very much. Could you talk a little bit more about how you apply sufficiency in the day-to-day management decisions in the company? Maybe you have some concrete examples of how sufficiency helped people in the company take decisions and actually leading to concrete impact.
I think it's go down also to the kind of the direction and the resource management and of course the budget. So when you're talking about direction, so you have to evaluate yourself. It's which level you are capable at and good at. For example, if you want to challenge yourself to go global, so will that can be done in that stage or not? So how can we do a baby step? So those are something for the direction. But when you adjust the resource, that you start to look into yourself about the capability of your organization and then utilize them in the more like the beneficial way. So for example, if we are a cement producer and we kind of produce cement and use a building material as that's something that connected that we can grow. So instead of in the past we do have a steel business and then we kind of reduce it down. So those are something in terms of direction and of course the resource adjustment and of course the budget will also link to it. And sometimes we always consult with our board that a lot of our experienced people in order to reflect to us how can we work. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's go from the giant enterprise Siam Cement Group to a social enterprise set up by Kun Lakana. Kun Lakana, of course I'm going to ask you to explain a little bit what Banana Land is all about, but could you also explain how does the sufficiency thinking help you guide the way you manage your enterprise?
Okay, my name Bam. I live in Loi province. Usually we do about the King Lamanai concept 5 years ago. Because of 5 years ago, I joined to Win-Win War season 1. And then I thinking about if I want to do about CBT, community-based tourism. I just know about all we do, all community do. And then we try to put the children like a SE for youth in Thailand. Banana Land look like a easily synonym. ง่ายๆกล้วยๆ Banana Land like a we search some banana for all people. Banana for me like a snack. Banana for grandmother like a waving. For children like a funny. And for parents like a craft. Banana Land like this. Yeah.
So you have experience in the field working with communities. What would be your recommendation to make the sufficiency thinking more applicable?
Okay. When I was young, my parents teach me about King Lamanai concept. We know about when I was young, and usually I doesn't know about this is King Lamanai concept. But we do, we thinking we do, and we do everyone every day. Just get up and do it. After that, 2 years ago have a COVID, and then we thinking about how the community have money enough for survivor, and then we thinking return about King Lamanai say that you must to have stronger like a standard, enough for eat, enough for living, enough for survivor standard. King Lamanai say that. And then we thinking about if we cannot go outside, how about we can do? And then we thinking return to product. If we cannot go outside, we must to repeat again and again how to standard. Everything standard. Because of my product, we have standard export. Not bigger machine, but handmade. But we got standard GMP and then HACCP. Not more, but more standard can excel can sell product and then we got like a 1.3 million after COVID online.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an incredible success. Congratulations. Let me open it up a little bit also because we're trying to explore how to make the sufficiency economy philosophy applicable, right? So when you think about the sufficiency philosophy, which parts of the philosophy do you think are most suitable? And this is a question to all of you, right? Which parts of the sufficiency economy philosophy are most suitable, you think, to turn into more concrete guidelines, more concrete frameworks or tools for businesses to implement? Maybe Dr. Chol.
Okay. So, in my opinion, I think actually the three hoops and two conditions can actually turn into some guiding principles and perhaps a set of standard. But I think we need to interpret it in a way that is more practical. For example, if we talk about like knowledge, a condition, perhaps we need to link it with like science, technology, and research. And for the moral conditions, perhaps we have to link it with like the negative externalities that a firm or a person create on other like pillar of sustainability. For the resilience, maybe we talk about risk management. The reasonableness is more like the optimality. How can we reduce waste? How can we reduce the greenhouse gas emission, for example? And the reasonableness is actually more like the rationality. How can we achieve certain goal in a sustainable way? Achieve the goal while maintain or increasing the asset that we are using. I think we can. There are ways to interpret them and make them an indicators or something like that.
Right. So the sufficiency thinking is in many cases aligned with the SDGs, with the targets that we've set there.
Yes. Actually, the key part that align with the SDGs, there are two parts. The first part is about the goal of the SEP. The goal is about trying to balance the economic, social, environmental, and cultural aspect of everything. So SDG is actually like the detailed part of that kind of goal. And the second part that I think very relevant is about the resilience. Resilience in sufficiency economy philosophy links very well with the concept of resilience in SDGs. But we probably need to think more about not only as individual to be resilient, but how can society provide proper conditions for people to be resilient and sufficient. I think right now we tend to push the burden of trying to be sufficiency to individual too much, but we need to think more about how can we institutionalize the sufficiency concept, how can we facilitate people's life to be more sufficient. I think that is the key.
Yeah, institutionalizing, that's an important word that you're using there. Let me stay with you, Professor Joel, for a moment, because you've done a lot of work researching and also promoting the adoption of the SDGs, and we all know that that hasn't been easy. So you must have learned a lot. What can we learn from the experience of implementing or disseminating the SDGs? What can we learn that we can use for the sufficiency economy philosophy?
After 8 years, I think we have a lot of lessons learned, but I think the key lesson would be how can we make it useful for the audience. I mean, when we talk about SDGs, people tend to focus on how can we make people remember the 17 goals and know that is from the UN, but why do we need to know all of that, right? And why do we need to use the language of SDGs? After like 5 or 6 years, I found that it's actually very well adopted when we present it in a way that actually SDG is a tool for everyone to push forward their own sustainability agenda. And everyone can use the global force, like Star Wars, use the global force to push forward their own local agenda. For example, if you use SDG language to Banana Land, she can be the global example, not only for example for Thailand, for example. So it can empower people. It can actually use for checking if the private sector are greenwashing or not. It can use for negotiate, collaborate, or even look forward together. What can we do together to achieve sustainable society. So SDG becomes a tool, not some homework that you can give us. So I think if we can make the sufficiency economy philosophy practical in that way, more about the people, more about how can we make those concepts useful for everybody in all levels of society, that would make sufficiency economy philosophy a little bit more adoptable, implementable. And the last point I want to add is that right now for the new generation, for the younger people, they are more aligned with the global norms, like human rights, for example. So I think it is really important that the sufficiency economy philosophy allow itself to interact with the global norms and try to create some new kind of application that would support those norms. I think that would go well with the younger generations. And that is really important because if we cannot bring sufficiency economy philosophy to discuss with other concepts in the world in a safe way, like have a safe space to discuss and critique the concept, it will become only a preaching. It's not a learning. Right. So we need a safe space to allow people to learn and critique and apply the concept. So that would be my point for yeah.
Thank you very much. On the SDGs, there are, as you know, there are a lot of frameworks on reporting and disclosure right now. And my question is, how does the sufficiency economy philosophy fit into the disclosure machinery? Could we, for instance, identify specific KPIs for the sufficiency philosophy?
Well, I think I would just echo what Professor at the beginning said that, for example, like the governance element of the ESG reporting, like risk management, for example, or how we deal with labors, with communities around the plants properly, actually that already reflects the sufficiency economy philosophy. But I think the part that would make it more stand out and become a signature of sufficiency economy philosophy would be something that related to like the cultural aspects of the implementation of the firm, for example, which I think still quite lacking in the reporting. And I think another part would be about the resilience part. The risk management is only one part, but how can we expand the management to society around it? I think that would be the idea.
Right. Thank you very much. When we talk about adoption, what we're really talking about is that leaders start to become sufficiency leaders, right? So if you imagine a sufficiency leader, what does that leader look like? What are the type of leadership characteristics that come out in a specifically sufficiency leader? What are the skills or leadership characteristics that you would think of? And this is a question you're all welcome to respond to. Steve, I see your...
Well, thank you.
Yeah. That's working.
Is this one working?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. A lot of important topics have been put before the group. I would like to comment on one or two aspects. First of all, I'm sitting here in 2023 looking out at a very impressive exhibition which demonstrates knowledge, understanding, commitment, and skills and talents. I personally first came to Bangkok 63 years ago. If you had told me in 1960 that the Thais would come up with this kind of an initiative, I and most other Farangs, we would have shaken our heads and say, no. Look what has happened. This leads to a second point. The sufficiency economy philosophy, however you want to call it, in what words, is something that can come from Thailand to the world. In 1960, going back to King Rama IV, what was the issue? What's coming from the West, the French, the British, to Thailand? Now there is something which can come from Thailand to the world. What is the basis for the SEP? As Kun Vasu said, it really reflects Buddhism, the concept of the middle way, balance, equilibrium, being sensible to what reality is. But then you ask yourself, okay, the Thai people are Theravada Buddhists. I'm not a Theravada Buddhist. Most of my people in America are not Theravada Buddhists. Why should we care? Why should we want to bring sufficiency economy thinking to America? So my next point is, in many religions, in many cultures, there are similar ideas. Let me just state a few. For example, in China. Why should the Chinese bring sufficiency economy philosophy to China? One reason is there are many Chinese Buddhists. Secondly, there is a classical book in China called The Doctrine of the Mean, it's called the Zhongyong, which talks about balance and moderation. The Middle East, Islamic cultures. Why should Muslims bring sufficiency economy to Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, Indonesia? I would argue because in the Quran, if you read the Quran, there's a very important concept. It's called mizan in Arabic. And mizan means balance. There would be Quranic reasons to behave the same way. In my country, in the United States, we are very secular. We're Christian and we're secular. But we have two famous theories that we use. One came from Adam Smith. It's a theory about capitalism. The other came from John Locke. It's a theory about government and politics. Both of these theories use the concept of checks and balances. You have to balance different things. That's finding equilibrium. So there is something very important, I think, that the Thais have now. And now let me move on and try to be very quick. If this is true, then the SDGs, which are global, they come from the United Nations. They can incorporate the SEP philosophy into the SDGs. And how would you do that? There's a chart up there. Very simply, I would like to make the point that we, as people, we always start with ideas. This is the concept of the head and the heart that was mentioned. We start up here, but then what do? We use our hands. Our hands are in the level of what we call facticity. It's reality. This is facticity. I hit something, there's a sound. If it's in my head, you can't see it, you can't think it. Sufficiency economy philosophy is, I think, it's a philosophy, it's the word. It's ideas, it's in our head, it's at the top of this pyramid behind me. At the bottom of the pyramid is action. At the bottom of the pyramid is results. She has results in her basket. But she started with an idea in her head. The same thing is true for the Siam Cement Group. 25 years ago, the leaders of the Siam Cement Group, they had an idea. And then they implemented the idea. So my conclusion is you start with an SEP philosophy, and then GJ, as you indicated, you use that philosophy to define how you execute.
You mentioned Adam Smith, which is interesting. It makes me think that many of our challenges at the moment maybe are a by-result of the shareholder capitalist model that the world has been running after for so long, and which has brought a lot of good things, but now we're finding out that there are a lot of unintended consequences there as well that need to be addressed. Einstein, I think, said that you can't solve a problem with the same mindset that created it, right?
And very quickly, for those of you in the audience, so Professor GJ used the concept of shareholder, like for corporate owners. Owners. And what do owners really want? Money. Ngun, right? Okay, but if you focus on only one thing, particularly a material thing like money, everybody, you all have baht, you have pieces of paper, you have little plastic things in your wallet, right? This is materialism. This is not your mind, this is not your heart. But if you shift away from the owners, from money, to the customers, are you giving people what is good? If you think about your workers, are you taking care of your workers? You can still have this free market capitalism, you can have money, you can have credit cards, but you also help people.
So if we think about the sufficient economy philosophy being an extra tool in the toolbox for the world to solve some of these big problems and maybe correct some of that some of these Western-dominated models out there, what would you say are the key elements of the sufficiency economy philosophy that you would promote to the outside world?
Well, I think, frankly, Professor GJ, because Farang, like me, I mean, we don't understand the Thai words that are used. And if you translate some of the words to sufficiency economy, I say this with all respect to His Majesty King Rama IX, and even though our family is Farang, he and my father were friends, and I once had a long time talking to him, so I respect him a great deal. But this English word, sufficiency economy, it doesn't mean much to us in English. It's kind of like, what are you talking about? Similar for many Farang, if you say Buddhism, what do they think? They think about monks. They think about a Buddha image. They don't think about economy. They don't think about using bananas in various ways to create new products, right? So I think the first thing is necessary is to take these ideas from Thailand and put them into language, which the Farang and Chinese, Japanese, other people can understand. That would be starting with the head. Because once you get the ideas in the head, then most people will automatically, on their own, carry it out in their jobs, in their work, in their companies. And this process, you might also say, is a process of education. Every person has to be educated after we're born. Every family does education. Every country has education. We have educators here. How do you think of the SEP as an educational philosophy around balance, equilibrium?
I really like that, the way you're approaching that. The SAP as a mindset that can be educated onto people.
If I may follow on, I once had a long conversation, or I was listening with His Majesty many years ago, before he thought of the SEP. And what he was really saying, and I'm listening, was I need to educate my mind. And he was advising me on some of the Buddhist ideas that the Buddha himself talked about, which would give me a mindset. And I remember walking out thinking, what he's saying is if I get my mind right, my actions will also be right.
Very wise. Thank you very much. Just one more moment with you, Steve, because we're coming towards the end of the session, but you're involved in a very important initiative that is shaping up in Thailand to promote the sufficiency economy philosophy around the world. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Well, this initiative, which really is sort of a Thai initiative with many people. We had a meeting last April, and I've been taking this idea to different countries. And it builds on what I said earlier. If you talk to Muslims, you talk to them in terms of Mizan and the Quran. You draw people to a Thai idea. If you talk to the Chinese, you use something Chinese. If you talk to Americans, you talk something here. So the question is, I think the Thai, with the educators, the business people like Siam Cement, small handicraft people, perhaps with the government, perhaps with Buddhist leaders, you put together an outreach program around educating people from different cultures. This could be done, and we're talking to people about how the Thai could do this. We're with friends around the world, such as myself, creating opportunities for conferences like this, for workshops, for books. I mean, the Thais could write books in English, Chinese, Japanese about this philosophy. These days, as you probably know, because of the internet, you can put a book up on the internet here in Bangkok in English, and people can buy it all over the world. So there's an opportunity for a smaller country like Thailand to influence the world in good ways.
Thank you very much. We're almost wrapping up, so I'd like to have one very quick last word from the three of you. So maybe in summary, right? What would you say the sufficiency economy philosophy gives the world that is lacking in the SDGs at the moment.
I would say that the sufficiency economy philosophy provides a guiding principle for actions for individuals, firms, and communities. But of course, we must not see this as like a panacea, like the universal medicine for everything. It has to be working with other concepts that already exist in the world.
In my opinion, like SDG goal, like the goal we want to do. After that, SEP, like a step, how to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, SDG is a goal, which is the target. But then sufficiency economy philosophy is the how-to. It is the how to get there, which means like if you concern and do it with know yourself and you change for adapting, know your customer, and of course you share with them. So it means not to leave anyone behind. Do it with the heart, like you love, and then it will come back to you as well. So that's how we can reach the goal with sufficiency economy philosophy.
I love this wrap up because it shows that the efficiency economy philosophy can actually be very action oriented. It can be a guidance for the way we do business and we manage the world. So thank you very much for sharing your insights on this, and thank you audience for listening.
ขอบคุณค่ะ Thank you so much. Thank you for all of our speakers that who are coming to join, and of course to provide for all of you bit about the deep dive detail. Thank you so much. And so please, right here, distinguished guests, we would like to introduce and inform to all of you with our application for the SX application. Right now, you can go to the application to scan up the QR code and correct the point. Right now, this time, distinguished guests, we would like to inform and introduce for all of you once again. เอาละค่ะทุกท่านคะในช่วงเวลานี้กับแอปพลิเคชันนะคะเดี๋ยวอีกสักครู่หนึ่งค่ะเราจะขึ้นกับ QR code ที่จะให้ทุกท่านสามารถมาสะสมคะแนนกันได้บริเวณด้านหน้านะคะแล้วก็กับกิจกรรมณบริเวณเวที Talk Stage ค่ะวันนี้ได้รับเกียรติจากผู้ทรงคุณวุฒิในหลากหลายแขนงที่ได้มาแชร์เรื่องราวดีๆให้กับพวกเราได้รับฟังกันด้วยนะคะ Thank you so much. Thank you for our speakers.